Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you for joining another session of 99 Names. We're now on the 21st session. I apologize we weren't able to have this session in person, or sorry, not in person, but a live session here in Gathering. I wish, inshallah, we can have it in person sometime in the future, but I apologize we weren't able to have the live gathering as we usually do, but inshallah we will tomorrow and the days going forward, inshallah. But today we'll do this recording and we'll go through there. But we have four beautiful names again today. And last time we had covered the four beautiful names of Al Mubdi, Al Muid, Al Muhyi, Al Mumit. Al Mubdi was the originator, the creator, the founder, the initiator. Al Muid was the restorer, the one who brings back, the one who closes the cycle, closes the circle, and the one who leads back. And Al Muhyi, the one who gives life, and Al Mumit, the one who gives death and allows to die. So our conversation yesterday talked about this concept of life and death and closing that circle and changing how we may look at certain things and certain aspects of birth and death and adding that significance to the corporeal, but also to the metaphysical, to the internal, to the spiritual. And today we'll be covering Al Hayy. Al Hayy is the living, the one who lives forever, the one who always exists, the ever living. And then Al Qayyum, the one who exists eternally, the one who exists through themselves, the reliable, everlasting. And Al Wajid, the all existing, the all finding, the perfect bestower of existence, the perceiver. And lastly, Al Majid, the glorious, the praised, the renowned. So, with that, before we go into these names in detail, we'll go through the Asma al Husna and we'll do a recitation of those, inshallah. Let me just share my screen here. Bismillah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم المالك هادي البديع الباقي الوارث الرشيد الصبور. So Bismillah, let us go ahead and begin with the names of today. As I mentioned, we're going through Al-Hayy first, and then Al-Qayyum, then Al-Wajid, and Al-Majid. So Al-Hayy. Al-Hayy is the living, the one who lives forever, the one who always exists. The eternity of life is in which there's no beginning or end. It's beyond space and time. That we think about this life, we think about the living, it's beyond and it transcends that time. It's what actually creates that time, creates that life. And Al Hayy really gives that added connotation of just pure always existence. That before there was nothing, there was always something. And when there's nothing, there will always be something, and that something is Allah. And so it has the same root of the name as of the name that we discussed earlier, Al Muhyi, the one who gives life, has the same root and of this root of living, to see, to experience, to witness, to lend life, to call into being, to give birth, to revive. Ibn Arabi says that after Al Wahid, after Al Ahad, Al Hayy occupies the highest position of all the divine names. All the other divine names can only enter reality after Allah has given Hayy, or life, to the universe. Then comes Al-Alim, and consciousness, and that flows into the creation. And so what we see with this name is that as Allah not only is the living, but Allah is the one who has given life, we too want to be bringers of life because we've been given life. So we want to live into our lives, but we also want to give life. We also want to help the lives around us. We want to give lives in a sense, that in a substantive sense. And so the word al-hayat, or life itself, comes from hayy. It has the same root. And so we see that this name not only produces the life that we know here, but it's also used in a sense to help awaken that which is inside of us. It's used to awaken our hearts. It's used to increase our self-awareness and observation and it's also used to help produce action. When Allah is Al-Hayy, when Allah is this attribute, the living, the one who lives forever, the one who brings this life, we have also the notion that the God whom we serve, the God whom we worship, is not a God that is defined by time and space. It's not a God that is born and a God that is died or has died or will die. This is a God that will be everlasting, is everlasting, and is beyond that space and time kind of continuum that we have. Is beyond that, has created all this. But in that aspect of living, in that aspect of the one who lives forever, the gems we can pull out are seeing our own lives, not just in how minuscule or how finite we are in comparison to how transcendent and all everlasting and living Allah is and how living Allah is, but in the fact that we have a living God. Our God is a living God. And as such, when we as people, we are a living creation. We are a living creation and we are living amongst other creation. And so what do we do with this living? We see that Allah, as the living God, has so many other attributes, is doing all these other things. And of course, these are all perfect attributes, and Allah manifests those and creates those, and those bear forth the creation in different steps. But it allows us to see that we can not only be living, but we can aspire to these other attributes as well, or at least the divine sparks of these attributes. So we can try to be merciful, try to be loving, try and strive for justice, all these other things that are there. But Al-Hayy really lets us get in that mindset of what is it like to be living? Not only acknowledgement that we are living because the one who is living has created us, has given life to the universe, but what is it like for us to be living? And then what is it like for us to give life? Not just in a sense that we have children and we reproduce and we populate the homes and populate our communities and things like that, but what is it like to give life? What is it like to really give life? What is it like to maybe make a sacrifice if you donate your blood or do something that you give life? What is it like to truly give someone a livelihood, to truly produce for someone a means of livelihood, to give them a proper life? So we think about this name not just in the literal life-bearing sense, not just in the literal life creation sense. We think of it in the sense of also that metaphysical, that spiritual aspect of what does life look like? What does it look like when we internalize this name? When we internalize this name, as I mentioned, we awaken our hearts. We increase our self-awareness. We up our observation and we jump to action. And then with all these things, we also come to knowledge. It says kind of like Ibn Arabi said that, you have the names that come forth. You have Al-Hayy has the highest position after Al-Wahid and Al-Ahad, but then after that Al-Alim comes, because then consciousness flows into the creation. And so then with us, knowledge comes after this name. Knowledge is what comes about. So if we live our ways right, if we live our way properly, knowledge will then follow. And so both internal and of external. And so we want to use this name and we want to incorporate this name as a way to help us renew the life that we live, help us renew the life that we live so that we can live our life better, but then also create a better life for those around us. So this leads us into our next name, which is often repeated with Al-Hayy. It's Al-Qayyoom. Al-Qayyoom is the one who exists eternally, the one who exists through themselves, the reliable, the everlasting, eternal, and everything exists because Allah is. The root of this word has so many different meanings, but of key importance. You have to get up, to stand up, to rise or turn against, to rise in honor, to be in firmness, to straighten out, to guard, to be sincere. Al-Qayyum really allows the divine sparks that we are talking about, those divine sparks, to arise in us, to arise in the world around us, and to help take us away from our self, our like that outer self we've created, and letting us stand up in our true form, our true self, the one that we were created in, not the one that we've been constructed in by the world around us, the one that we are at that root and inside. And so it makes us straight and correct, and it makes us upright till we reach that true essence. So just think of this world as having so many burdens on us, and we're standing kind of like this, and the more we go through life, we start to take on these burdens, and we start to get bent and bent and here, like, we're just taking on all these burdens here in the world, in terms of our job, our education, whatever it might be, our mortgage, all these different things are piling up, whatever it might be, the things of this world that really are getting to us. Al-Qayyum really helps us straighten out, really helps us get back to our true essence, away from these, as we shed, not in a sense that literally like, okay, hey, I'm not going to pay my mortgage anymore, I'm just going to leave my job, it's all this and whatnot, and just get to this point. But no, it's a way to balance that out, to where these things don't own you. These things aren't what define your life. Your life is defined by the inner essence, not these things that are holding you down. And so Al-Hayy and Al-Qayyum, as I mentioned, are mostly recited together. The one who lives forever, you have in Al-Hayy, and the one who exists through themselves, Al-Qayyum, the source of all existence. And Al-Qayyum gives strength and trust in that divine providence. It cools the pain and the heaviness we sometimes feel in our heart time and time again, and in our backs. So kind of like I told you that with regards to the world weighs on us, the world weighs on our hearts, the world weighs on our backs and on our shoulders. And this name really helps to ease that pain, to really straighten out from it. And so this name helps us free from existential worries, free from those worldly worries that we might have. And it gives help for us to give less importance to not just the material world, but also those things within the material world that sink within us, the emotions that we might have that are of harmful of harmful nature, of detriment to us, of a lowly desires, different things that we might have. These desires, these emotions, but also the importance we give to the material world, it starts to dissipate. It starts to dissipate and it starts to remove itself there. And so as we look at Al-Qayyum, we also see a name that shows us that everything exists, everything that is here, all the things in this world exist through Allah. And that Allah, above all of this, is the one who exists eternally, that this will all disappear. The Quran says, "Kullu man alayha fan," that everything will just go, everything will disappear, everything will be, wiped out, everything will, be gone. But Allah is always there. Allah always exists. And so we seek solace in this name by knowing that the burden that we have, the worries that we take on, just the sheer weight of this world is nothing but a burden that will be temporary. And we can surely find respite knowing that that burden will be removed eventually. But through this name, we can find a way to remove that burden sooner. We can find a way to remove these burdens sooner, and to be able to live upright, to be able to live in a way where these things don't own us. And we recognize our sole proprietorship is with Allah. Our sole ownership is with Allah. And that relationship is just with Allah, not with these bags that we have on our back here. And so our next name is Al-Wajid. Al-Wajid is the all-existing, the all-finding, the perfect, the bestower of existence, the perceiver. Al-Wajid and Allah need nothing in this sense. They need nothing, but they're capable of anything. And Al-Wajid is the one who perceives and possesses everything. It's the one that has no wants and who lacks nothing. Allah is Al-Wajid, is the one who does not need, as I mentioned, or does not lack anything. Allah is the most resourceful and finds whatever Allah wills. The root of this name is to find, to hit upon something, to come across something, to meet with something, to get to invent, to be found, to be there, to feel and experience, to be passionate, to have this, as Rosina Al-Rawi has a translation of, to have this ecstasy of love. And Al-Wajid finds you. Al-Wajid is the one that finds you. We think of the the beautiful verses in Surah Duha, Surah Duha, in which Allah says, وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًا فَهَدَى, that, Allah found, did not, He find you lost and guided you. This wajad, this concept of being found. And, it's very intimate, that not just found, but guides you. And there's not just this one that finds, there's also the one who is close to us. We see that Allah is not just someone that, when we think of finding, is moving a flashlight over a dark field and it's like, all right, where'd you go? But like, Allah knows that we might be straying here and there, but Allah finds us where we are, helps us find ourselves. Because in this name, you not only have that, okay, hey, Allah found me, but Allah gives that sense that you've been found. And so something inside you changes. You feel transformed. And so in Al-Wajid, Allah is the one who is close as well, and the one who answers. But also in a way that we see in this name, this ecstasy of love, the kind, the loving. So when you are found, it is a very wholesome experience that you feel. And so what we see here in that, we're able to carry out everything. We're able to carry out, not just with this name of what Al-Wajid. We have the ability to carry out these qualities of generosity and express this. And so we have this sense of holistic finding. We have this sense of holistic finding because we find Allah as Allah finds us. And we seek and find Allah's presence in everything around us. We seek and find Allah's presence in everything around us because just like that, Allah finds us. And what really sticks out about this aspect is that not just a finding, but a finding of sense that it transforms you. It finds you and it transforms you. I'm going to just go through Surah Ad-Duha real quick, just to get it back on our minds, because it shows this concept of wajad. It shows this concept of finding in such a way that is just so beautiful. So just in the translation here, that by the morning bright, in the name of Allah, most gracious, the most merciful, by the morning brightness and by the night when it covers the darkness, your Lord has not taken leave of you, nor has he detested you. And the hereafter is better for you than the first life. And your Lord is going to give you, and you'll be satisfied. Did he not find you an orphan and give you life? And he found you lost and guided you. وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًا فَهَدَى. And he found you poor and made you self-sufficient. So as for the orphan, do not oppress him. And as for the petitioner, do not repel them. But as for the favor of your Lord, report it. And so we see this name really bring about that concept of a holistic finding. We might feel like we're lost in one way, shape, or form and another, and this world will make us feel like that. But it gives us that sense that we have a God that is on the lookout for us in a positive way, and not just on a lookout, but in a loving sense, like a mother who has lost their child, or a parent who's lost their child, and the open arms that they have when they come back, and when they find them, they don't stop until they find them, and when they do find them, they cover them with love, they shelter them, they give them all this love. You see that same type of love within Allah. And lastly, we have Al-Majid. Al-Majid is the glorious, the praised, the renowned. And this name has this root of honor, dignity, nobility, fame, striving, to be glorious, to praise, to extol, to glorify. Allah is Al-Majid, the most noble, the magnificent and generous. And really, generosity is what we're going to see coming from this name as we go through it. But the one who consistently gives from his wealth, from their wealth, and it's endless. The wealth that is endless. And Allah, in being most high, being most generous, shows humanity a perfect example of not just wealth, but generosity. The wealth that we attribute to Allah when we say Allah is wealthy, Allah is rich, has all this. Allah is ghani, Allah has all these things. We don't think about these, the monetary wealth that Allah has. We don't think about, castles and like, or just like palaces and like things of old, or just the gold and all these monetary wealth and all these different things that are our hands will build up in sense of saying that we've got wealth. Like, look at this big house I got, like look at this car, like we got big wealth that's here, and you can kind of see it there. Allah has wealth that is beyond that, has wealth that you can see in these attributes, that there's just so much holistic wealth that is there, so much other wealth that's beyond the material. And it's such a empowering force. And so there's a perfect example of wealth in terms of what to be wealthy of, but also of generosity, because in all of these things Allah gives. Not only does Allah give, Allah used these to create. Allah used these to create an entire creation, the universe in and of itself as you know it, and you as you are right now. And so Al-Majid is the one who indicates that this essential nature is glorious, dignified, noble, honorable, and whose essential nature is to give liberally and bountifully. It has the same root as Al-Majid. Al-Majid lends this quality an active expression. It's a unique doer, a performer. And that's in a sense that Al-Majid really denotes the glorious essential nature of Allah, whereas Al-Majid honors the specific deeds performed by Allah. Ghazali and Ibn Arabi say that Al-Majid expresses the combined meanings of the Al-Jalil, which is the majestic, the Al-Wahhab, the bestower, and Al-Karim, the generous. And so you have a combination of the two. And Al-Majid is the bestower of wealth and blessings. Al-Wajid, on the other hand, which we just covered, is the one who is close, finding, answering prayers, the kind, the one who loves unconditionally. And then Al-Majid is the one from whom all these this wealth, this generosity comes from, and to whom we return. And you see where these names kind of work in combination with one another. And the universe and the life around us is a sheer reflection of not just this generosity, not just this glory, but it is a reflection in and of itself of Al-Majid. And so this name gives us the strength to assume responsibilities, to understand things deeply. We find the riches in ourselves and our lives because their only source is God. And so we're wary of greed. We're wary of what our sense of wealth is. We're wary of our sense of our riches. What are those things? And so if that is all that we strive for, when we say wealth, we want to be wealthy. If all that we strive for is something you can count, something you can deposit, something you can transfer, these things that you can really just capture, we're really barring ourselves from any kind of true spiritual insight and true benefit, and also that noble aspect of really being based on moral values, on being based on holy values, on being based on divine values and divine creation. So when we do these things, when we put our reliance on things that can be as moved and shifted as currency, or as moved and shifted as wealth, or any of these material aspects, it's very loose foundation at the end of the day. And so we lose a sense of stability, whether not external, but internal stability, as well as a perspective of true happiness. If all that we gain in this world is just this, we find that it won't make us happy up to an extent. It will only create some happiness. So, money can't buy happiness. It's an often time tell saying it, it may give you happiness for an extent, but true happiness in a sense that you get beyond that. And when we see the wealth that Allah brings, when we see the attributes Allah brings, see, that's where the true wealth lies. And so what we see with this name then is that, how life goes on. Life moves in through its ebbs and flows. It goes through the hardships and the eases, and it goes through all these different things. But this name teaches us, regardless of that time, to be, whether in abundance, to be grateful and generous, and also in times of difficulty, to be grateful, to be generous, and to have and to honor and to love our fellow creation, to always be looking at, what am I wealthy with? Where is my true wealth? I might have just lost my home. I might have just lost all these things. Where's my true wealth at? Where is that? And when we look at Allah, when we look upon Allah, when we look upon Allah, because we can't see Allah, but when we look upon these names and these attributes and we reflect, we see where is Allah's wealth, and we see it all around us. We see in these names, we see these manifestations, we see it through the Quran, how Allah wealth transcends any concept of dollars or anything like that. It's a transcendent, holistic wealth, and we see within that what can we take, what can we use of this, because Allah gives this wealth freely. It's there for us. How do we access it? How do we make ourselves wealthy as well? And so the fact that we don't know what will happen tomorrow really does attest to Allah's majesty, really does attest to this Al-Majid. It really tells us that we don't know. We could plan for days on end and years on end that, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to plan this. In 10 years, I'm going to plan to be a millionaire, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do all this stuff. And we might not even live to see the end of this day. We don't have a control of how many days we have, how many hours we have. It's all by the mercy of Allah. So this name really makes us cognizant of thinking about, in all this glory and just this finiteness that we are, however long it might be, what is our wealth? What are we gracious with? What are we really, really piled with here that makes us rich, even if we may not be defined by society as rich? And then not just that, what are we doing with that wealth? Each of us has these divine sparks. Each of us has these abilities. What are we doing with it? And so these names cause us to reflect. And so we close today with the dhikr of these names, inshallah, and then we will close out. So bismillah, let us go ahead and begin. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. Al-Hayy, 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 Al-Hayy. Al-Hayy, 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 Al-Hayy. Ya Hayy, 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 Ya Hayy. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. Al-Qayyoom, 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 Al-Qayyoom. Ya Qayyoom, 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 Ya Qayyoom. Ya Qayyoom, 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 Ya Qayyoom. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. Al-Wajid, 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 Al-Wajid. Al-Wajid, 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 Al-Wajid. Ya Wajid, 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 Ya Wajid. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. Al-Majid, 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 Al-Majid. Ya Majid, 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 Ya Majid. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. So brothers and sisters, Jazakallah khair. Again, I apologize we weren't able to have a live space for you all to join, but inshallah in the last sessions that we have here, they will all be live. So I hope to see you all, inshallah, tomorrow. And again, remember these names as a way that we not only think about them, we memorize them, but we think of them how we internalize them, how we use them to awaken to ourselves and to the world around us, inshallah. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. Inshallah, have a blessed day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.